Running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans. Welcome to Talking in Ovals. How's everybody doing out there on this Monday, June 23rd, 2025? Dave, it's episode 146. It feels like we've been away for like a month since I was so used to doing shows like three in 1 week, but we're back on our normal schedule.
Yes.
Hi, what's going on, brother?
I think this is the first time I've ever been rendered speechless on this show after watching what happened this weekend at the high school nationals. I mean, just the fact that the New Jersey girls proved that they are the most dominant state by far on the girls' side. I mean, kudos to everybody who went out there. I don't know how in depth that we're going to get, but some of the performances were just mind-boggling.
Yeah, it was really good. Just we're Jersey people, so we're obviously Jersey homers. But I mean, this week we have a reason to puff our chests out a little. Obviously, Florida sweeping in the shuttle hurdles was crazy too over at New Balances. That was wild to see.
But we had a shuttle hurdle champ here at New Balance, Tundra North.
Yep.
And there was a little team called Manasquan who ended up finished ninth in the state in the shuttle. I mean, ninth in the country in the shuttle hurdles.
Yes. I mean, there's a coach there. I think that he might be on this show. So shout out. I mean, really good stuff all around.
No, I mean, Tundra North on the. I mean, the boys from New Jersey were amazing, but the girls took it to a level that is just unfathomable.
So quickly, I just want to inform everybody that we are now streaming from a few more spots.
Yes.
Before we were streaming from X, Facebook, which was our Talking in Ovals Facebook, plus our two personal ones, and YouTube. We have now added Twitch and Kick. So you can go find us. Just go search Talking in Ovals on either of those if you're a fan of those, if you prefer watching on those streaming services, and we'll be there as well. So we are out in a few more places. So before we jump into our guest, I mentioned that, go do all your due diligence. Last week, we talked to Pratt Community College head coach, Philip Redrick.
What a
great guy.
Show.
Just great guy, great show. The passion, you want to talk about somebody selling the JUCO route? Just go watch that episode over and over and over, and you'll be sold as a high school coach. Just start steering your kids over there. It's awesome.
Hey, like you don't have to go D1. There's great coaches everywhere, and he was proof. He gets these kids in high school, and they all improve. It was unbelievable just to get that side and that aspect of the actual sport. It was awesome.
Yep, and we have a comment quickly here. Carson Gambaro, thank you for watching, Carson. Tom's over North dominating on the boys'
absolutely.
side. Yes, they were fantastic every which
Unbelievable.
way. So North is just a great team. But someone that may disagree with our assessment because she is not a Jersey person, but our guest today, someone I'm excited to bring on, a person that me and Dave are both personally fans of. We've followed her career, and she's an incredible athlete. Let's bring her in right now. It is Sinclaire Johnson. She is a professional runner for Nike. She lives out in Portland, Oregon. She is the 2022 1500 meter women's United States champion. She's been on 3 world teams. She has PRs of 356 in the 15 and 159 in the 800. Sinclaire, what's going on?
Hello, happy to be here.
I mean, it's absolutely our pleasure. Like I said before, it's like Dave and I, like we have some of our guests that we're like either they're legends or they're like current athletes, and we're like, you know what, let's try to get them. And then every once in a while they say yes. And we're just like, hell yeah. And you're one of them that, we're pumped that you decided to join us. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
So I want to ask first, did you pay attention to, or do you pay attention to like the high school collegiate levels anymore? Or are you very much locked into doing what you're doing during your season?
Yeah, I do a little bit. I guess I really don't pay attention to much of the regular season of high school or college, really. But I'll watch NCAAs, and I saw a little bit from Nike Nationals and New Balance Nationals as well. But I feel like I'm light years away from that environment. So I don't know the names anymore. I mean, the times that are coming out of high school is just unbelievable.
Listen, I have one name for you. I don't know if you heard of her. Her name is Natalie Dumas. She just ran 55 for the 400 hurdles, won New Balance. Then she comes back, wins the 400 and 51-1.
Breaks
Oh,
Sydney's record in the New Jersey
Yeah,
there.
in and then comes back and wins the 800 in 2 flat point 11. She wins
oh
3
my
national championships.
goodness.
She's a junior from New Jersey. And then we had a sophomore from New Jersey, Paige Shepard, run a 4:33, beat Sadie Engelhart, and then win it. It's crazy. It's crazy
Yeah,
how
I
fast
did.
everyone runs now.
Yeah, it's insane. I did see that mile. That was awesome. For that. Yeah, she was only a sophomore, so really, really bright future ahead.
It's crazy. So, for your perspective, real quick before we get into your stuff, as you're looking at these high schoolers, and I mean, you're incredibly fast. You're one of the fastest individuals in the world, and things like that. Are you looking at it going, what are they all eating, right? Like, are you looking at it like trying to figure out like what is going on? What is in the high school water right now? Because I mean, you're a young lady. It's not like that long ago that you were not, doing
Right.
dominant stuff in high school as well. Like, are you trying to figure out what the heck's going on behind you, like with the high schoolers right now?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think I even see this with college too, and I guess I'm a little bit less removed from there, and so I still know a lot of athletes that are in the collegiate system, and it honestly just seems like people are training a lot smarter now, and I think like high school and beyond too, like you're just taking it more serious
Yes.
at a younger age. I see that like just the focus on sleep and nutrition and kind
Right.
of doing all the little things where I don't think we were really taught any of that in high
No.
school, that's for sure. I don't think I ever kept track of my mileage.
What I
I didn't
ate,
even
like,
yeah, so I think in general just there's a lot more information out there. Coaches have gotten a lot smarter, people are training smarter and harder and yeah, it's really cool to see. I think just seeing the level of competition keep raising and raising and raising um and these, high school and collegiate athletes it just makes for a brighter future and yeah, the next generation is definitely we're going to be in good hands.
oh yeah.
Absolutely. So I want to jump into the meat and potatoes of the podcast. I want to talk about you. I want to start off with the same question that we ask all of our runners. When did you get the spark to want to just pursue track and field as the thing that you do as a professional and just, in general? What was the time when it clicked that, hey, I'm going to start dedicating my life to being the best that I can at this sport? And it's not necessarily when you first started running, but when was it
Mhm.
like, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I think it happened like pretty quickly. I mean, my freshman year of high school was my first year ever running. So I tried out for the cross country team, qualified for state as an individual then, and I was a former lacrosse player, so I thought I was going to play
Oh, wow.
lacrosse in high school. I thought I was going to go somewhere in the Northeast for school and play lacrosse in college. But that quickly changed. And yeah, I think it really changed when I found track and I'm a lot more speedier than I am more endurance based athlete. And so when I could run things like, the 800 or the 1600 versus cross country, which was a 5K,
Yeah.
I definitely found a lot more love of it. And I think I like too about and this isn't always the case, but you kind of get out what you put into it. And I think that
Right.
was always kind of my qualm with team sports was that you could try your hardest. Like I could be running after the ball, doing the most, like
Politics.
yeah, and then we could still lose. And I really hated losing. And I really hated people that not hated them, but it really bothered me when people weren't trying as hard as
Right.
I was trying. And so
Yes.
I think when I found track and I found, oh, I can try as hard as I can and get the outcome and no one else can really take that from me, then I started to really love it. So it was pretty, I would say like my freshman year, that came quick to me. And I think as it progressed and as I started to realize, oh, this is something that I can do in college,
Yeah.
I think I took it more seriously every single year.
Yeah.
So explain real quick, Dave, to a few Northeasterners, because you were talking about going out to the Northeast for lacrosse, right? So
Yeah.
is there not a big lacrosse culture in terms of like collegially out in the Northwest? Because you're over in Oregon. So is it more
Yeah.
of something too where it's like if you decide to do track, that's a big deal? Because obviously pre is a big thing. Like, so what is like that culture there in terms of first lacrosse? I was curious about that. And then
Mhm.
also when you chose to do track, is that like a big deal over out there?
Yeah, so I actually grew up in Florida.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
Yes.
yeah, and so I traveled up and down the East Coast all the time for lacrosse
Gotcha.
tournaments. And yeah, so it was just it wasn't as big in the Southeast, but in the Northeast for sure. I mean, we go to Delaware, Pennsylvania all the time. for tournaments. So I thought I was going to go to Syracuse and play lacrosse there. That was like what I wanted to do going into high school. But yeah, and then I ended up going to Oklahoma State and running track and field, which I think my parents were a lot happier about.
It's a little
Because
bit
I think,
closer.
yeah, it's a little bit closer, but also I think too when they were both runners, and so when I kind of found my own in running and found the love for it too, they could relate a little bit more, and just like they're the biggest fans of track in general, so it's a little bit more, yeah, close to home with them.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
that seems like a good choice that you made there to continue to stay closer to the parents and do the sport that they like. That always makes them happy.
Yeah.
So go
Yeah.
ahead, Dave. Dave, you had a question before?
No, I was going to say, like track. I would say earlier how you were saying it's the most individualized team sport that we have. Like the better you are as an individual, the better that your team does. But they're not necessarily, you know, all in one there. Like you could
Yeah,
run well.
totally. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think the aspect of, cross country being very like that is like the perfect example of it's individualized, but it's also a huge team sport too. And then you go to track and there's relays and there's individual events. So I like the balance of both of them. Yeah.
Yes.
So we're gonna jump down memory lane with you. What have been some of your favorite memories from when you first started as a runner back in freshman year, all the way to where you are now as a professional?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good question. I think probably my one of my very first memories with running was I came like I think I won the 800 and 1600 my sophomore year of uh of high school, and I think that was really special because I wasn't really supposed to win the 1600, um and but they just kind of played it into a more sit and kick race, and so I ended up claiming that title, and so I think that was really cool, and just getting to that level of a sport is just in high school was meant a lot. So say that. And then, I mean, college was so fun. I really enjoyed my time at Oklahoma State. We had several really good DMR teams, which that's always such a fun event. Of course, cross country trips, going and traveling with the team is so much fun. And then as a pro, it's looked a lot different. You don't have like that kind of team practice every single day where you show up and your coach determines your schedule and all that stuff. But I found like also really good memories throughout my professional career too. Definitely winning the national championship in 2022, and a lot of making teams with friends. Like I remember rooming with Elise Cranny at
Oh
2023
wow.
in Budapest,
Nice.
and like that
Yeah.
being like so much fun. So yeah, I think sometimes like even the little things of, especially when I was on Bowerman, which was like a bigger team, and we would go to altitude camp and a lot of nights just sitting on the couch watching TV together or playing games and stuff. Like those are always like my fondest memories. Because I feel like running is such a it can be very niche sport, but it can
Yeah.
also like you can see each other laugh and cry and go through a really hard time and go through a really high time. And so I think that aspect of it just makes like, yeah, the bonds that you create through it last forever.
I think we saw the closeness of Team USA kind of at this last Olympics, right? Like where everyone
Mhm.
was like
Yes.
so pumped when Cole Hocker won and like all like the big moments. Do you have that feeling now? Like, is that kind of carrying over as like everyone's gearing up towards Worlds and we're about to enter into that? Is there still that camaraderie of potentially the team unit going there to be a team and take care of business? Because that was in my ever watching track
Yeah.
and field, that was the most I've ever seen Team USA together and rooting for each other. Amongst like the elite runners that like really have a chance of making these world teams and things like that. Is
Mm.
there still that camaraderie there feeling, or is it I'm a pro, it's business for now. If we make it, we're gonna be, then that happens. Like, how is that? Because the pro is a very cutthroat kind of avenue with what you guys have to do in a lot of ways.
Yeah, totally. I think it when we're on Team USA, it's very different. Like it's very much that camaraderie, and I think we're all there to kind of do the same goals, but I think we all feel like we're a part of one team trying to do it. Like I even remember at World Indoor Champs when I was in China, like spending all the time with Heather McLean, who was my 1500 teammate
Yeah.
at that championship. And obviously, we're both trying to medal. We both really want that, but we're spending time in the dining hall. We're warming up together, like So I think that there is a sense of we're cheering for you, and even though yes, I guess technically on the line we are trying to beat
Sure.
each other because
Yeah.
that's the nature of what we do. It's just it's a very different vibe than when you're at US championships. And it's like, yes, of
Yeah, I was
course
gonna say,
these are my friends, but at the same time, like I'm fighting for a spot on
yeah,
this team, and it's very
Definitely.
different.
yeah.
But then when you're on a team together, it's very much like we're all Team USA. Like, I'm cheering for Heather as much as she's cheering for me, or even I feel like Team USA does a really good job of making us all aware of what's going on in the field events or the sprints, and getting us all riled up too, and being there to cheer on people and stuff. So yeah, I think it's definitely a cool feeling of being on Team USA, because it is such an elite team. But yeah, it's very much like a big family when you're there
Well,
at those championships.
yeah, I mean, obviously, I think you said it best. Like, you're not going to have that camaraderie at the U.S. Championships when you're all trying to make a team. But once you are solidified and you're like, there's no more races to make the team, you're already on the team. Then you can kind of relax and let your guard down and kind of talk to everyone more. But when you're fighting to get on that team for that top three, it's
Yeah.
just cutthroat. It's like, let's go. You are my friend, but not now.
Yeah, totally. And we have bonuses in our contracts, we have reductions in our contracts, and it becomes more than just this is not just top three. This can mean a lot for someone. This
Yeah.
can mean,
100%.
getting re-signed or not. And so, yeah, I think getting on a US team is very much like you are my enemy for the week. I
Sure,
love you, but you're my enemy for the week.
absolutely.
And it's like, is there ever talk once you get to that worlds or, those types of stage? If we make finals, let's kind of work together. Cause I think we've seen some other nations do this at times where
Right.
Bernard Lagat comes to mind all the time, is where
Well,
they just boxed him out so much. And I feel like other nations work well. Has there ever been talks about maybe working with another American if we're both in finals? Like,
Yeah.
let's box someone out if we have to, and let's run our race and make them like, because I feel like we get there and then everyone still has that I want, like, and everyone wants to medal, but I would love to see a little more teamwork from the Americans, and even with like the Brits and the Canadians, like some of our closest like people that we're typically close with, like in all that sense. Like, is there ever talks that way of like, hey, if we're in finals, let's try and figure this out together so we can all medal?
Yeah, I personally haven't had any of those conversations before the final, but I think it would be very helpful. I mean, I
Hell
don't
yeah.
see why not. Yeah, I know the Ethiopian women do that all the time. So, yeah, I think it would be beneficial. I think sometimes we're usually not the ones dictating the race. It's usually the Ethiopian or Kenyan women, so we're kind of at the mercy of them. So maybe
Yeah.
that's why we've never had a talk about we're just trying to hang on, really. But yeah, I think it could be beneficial in the future for sure.
I mean, that's why you got to get up there and make them run your race, right? Just get up
Yeah.
there and make
Yeah,
them do what you want to
exactly.
do. Put them into your will. I just want to real quick. I just want to acknowledge Mr. 100K a day. You're a former guest of ours. I like you. We're gonna keep. If you have questions that are like a little more nicer and respectful for Sinclaire, we'll throw them on there. But I'm just gonna say, like, we see your comments, and it is what it is. You're allowed to make your comments. I'm not gonna stop you from doing that, but I'm not gonna ask Sinclaire some of these questions. So I just want to, get that out there just so you know. But I do appreciate you for watching always, Mr. 100K a day. So let's keep moving forward here because you had some good memories there. I want to talk about some comebacks and in that nature because I think when you get to the point in your career, you've been running for a while. Um, Everyone has setbacks. Everyone has either major injuries or little injuries or things like that. Um, what have been some of your major injuries or any injuries that you've worked with? And how has it been trying to make your way back from these things?
Yeah, I've unfortunately dealt with quite a few injuries, some worse than others. But I think every injury's been a little bit different. Unfortunately, I've had several really bad timing with trying to make a US team. And so those are always the hardest. I think last year coming into the trials, I had a femoral stress reaction
Ooh,
pretty early on in January, but it took me out for a while, and um, that's never what you want going
No.
into, especially in Olympic trials. So yeah, I think it's been a lot of like leaning on the people around me. I think unfortunately learning a lot of hard lessons about training through my injuries. And I think a lot of them could have been prevented had I maybe not tried to run as much volume or much intensity. But I think you always are trying to find that limit, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, when cross that limit, it usually results in an injury. So,
Yeah.
and I'm still learning. Like, I think it's just, it's definitely like a trial and error when it comes to training and what I can handle and what I can race well off of and recover from. But yeah, I think just leaning on the people around me and trying to know or trying to just realize that this is unfortunately part of the sport sometimes, and you can do as much as you can to avoid it, but sometimes little things pop up, and I think it's a lot about how your mindset is around it and how you deal with it going, yeah, I guess through it, and then going forward and to not hopefully have it come back. So
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, as we know, this sport is full of highs and lows, and
100%.
you've
mhm.
gone through both. So, what was it like winning the U.S. Nationals, and then what was it like finishing fourth, and then being like, and that process of being put on the team afterwards? So, like, what, like, so you had the ultimate high, and then to me, I getting fourth has to be like the worst place that you could possibly get. So, like, what
Yeah.
was that like being at that meet, finishing fourth, not thinking that you're going, and then a thing pulls out, and then you end up going. So, what was it like, kind of in like both of those situations, feeling that the big time highs, and then feeling those all time lows, and then getting it back, and trying to keep your mental game kind of on check?
Yeah, I think that specific year was challenging. Also, I had a bad stress fracture in my shin about 9 weeks
Jesus.
before
Oh,
um, the U.S. Championships, and had to take about 4 weeks off, and had a little under 5 weeks to get ready. And
wow.
I think we did as much as we could. And I think that one definitely stung because I don't remember the milliseconds, but I was really close to third. And I think a lot of people thought I dove over the line to make it onto the team, which sure, you can think that. That sounds a lot cooler, but I honestly think it was my legs just gave out. Like I ran as hard as I could.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, that was a weird one because I didn't fully feel like I deserved to be on the team because I didn't get top three,
Yeah.
and I understand the process of, if someone doesn't go, then I would automatically be the next one, but it just didn't feel like I had fully earned it. It felt like I just lucked out. But nonetheless, I was very grateful to be on another US team. And I thought, well, if I got onto the US team, I'm gonna make the most of it. But yeah, I think that was just like a very sad sad day, and then the next day was a happy day when I found out that a thing was going to just do the 800. But that's kind of life, and
Yeah.
definitely running it's a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah. I mean, but to her credit, she didn't make you wait long. She came out
Yeah.
No, yeah.
right away. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm just going the eight. So that was cool. That you didn't have this long wait of trying to figure out when, if you were going or not. So kudos to her on that. But it's crazy how like one day to the next you could be so deflated, and then the next day you could be
Yes.
so elated.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely it was I was going through all the possibilities in my head, but yeah, fortunately she decided to just do the 800. So I was very, very grateful for her for choosing that.
So, Coach Torchy, I see you over there. We're going to get to your question in 1 second. It's a good one, as always. But I just want to ask, what is harder when you're coming back from these injuries, right? Because, like, I feel like it's very different if like you're a good high school runner coming back from an injury or like something like that. But you're battling to be a world elite. Like you're a pro, you're sponsored. There's money here. Like there's a lot more pressure on your shoulders. So what's the harder part? Is it harder getting physically back in the game, or is it harder getting mentally back in the game, knowing all the pressure you probably put on yourself?
Mhm.
With the like I said, with the sponsorships, with obviously with the way the world rankings work, with trying to get into some of these races, which um, we didn't really know about until we had Eric Sawinski on, and he kind of really opened up our eyes into you can't just march into certain races because you've done something in the past. You
Yeah.
have to have
Yes.
it's a very what have you done for me lately in order to get here, which I think is a little wild. I think they should
Not
fix
as
that a
much
little.
in the actual sprints, but definitely
No,
distance
but
races.
definitely. So, what is harder? Is it harder getting physically back from your injuries, or is it harder locking in mentally again and kind of looking at some of these women that have been doing it, are running fast, and it's like, okay, I got to get back and race against them again. So, which one's more difficult?
Yeah, I think the mental side of it is definitely harder. Um, Physically, I think you can do a pretty good job staying relatively fit with cross training. If you do it right.
Yeah,
And I've kind of learned how to keep myself in shape with cross training. So fortunately, I don't feel like I'm ever too far off of being physically ready. But yeah, the
gotcha.
mental side is very challenging. I think it's hard to be confident and show up to a start line and feel like you're going to beat who's next to you, or get top three on a team or whatever it is, when a lot of these women have had smooth buildups. They haven't had to take, big chunks of time off, and you see them running fast,
Yeah.
and so I think that's definitely the hardest part, is being confident enough to be like, I'm here to, do X, Y, and Z, and I believe I can do it. I think that's definitely the hardest part, and something that I'm like constantly working on.
Yeah, I could imagine it, like,
Sure.
you gotta have, like, that killer instinct needs to be there, but when
Hmm.
you're battling back, and I'd imagine I went through it, and Dave probably went through it, when, like, you're hurt, and then you're seeing someone who you were, like, neck and neck with all the time, maybe traded wins, and now all of a sudden, they've taken a big leap. They're now
Yeah.
maybe running a second PR, 2-second PR, and you're like, "Well, crap, okay. There goes my race partner." Like, now I like, it's that's and I'm again, I
Well,
went through it in college, and I failed in college. Like, I was never able to get past that injury hump. My
well,
mental just fell apart. Like,
and it and
it's incredible to see how strong you individuals are.
and two, like when you're physically well, then you can push yourself. But so it's a different mind frame. When you're trying to
Yeah,
get back,
yeah.
you don't want that same mind frame because you don't want to push too hard. So it's really trying to
Right.
find that balance of, am I in shape? Can I push it, or am I just coming back? So it's that mental game too of like,
Trusting that healed injury too, and
yeah,
seeing if you
Yeah.
can do what you
sure,
used to
yep,
do. Because I feel like that was always a struggle of mine after 2 ankle surgeries. It was, I don't know if I can push this ankle to do
yep,
what I'm supposed to do,
Right.
and I think that's what separates the elites from the non-elites, the
sure,
ones that are like, "Well, screw it, I feel good and I'm just gonna go." And I feel like that's like,
yep.
you kind of like, the non-elites are scared and they won't do it, and the mental beats them. And so there's a reason why you're who you are. And Dave and I are over here doing a
And why?
podcast, just
Yes,
talking to awesome people like yourself.
yes,
Um,
Yeah, no, you're so right. I mean, yeah, it's trusting yourself. I guess, yeah, definitely trusting your body that it can do what you're asking it to do. And I think a lot of times, especially when you're coming back from an injury, when you're racing constantly, you have those indicators of what kind of shape you're in, and you have all this feedback throughout the year. And when
yeah,
you've taken a
yeah.
bunch of time off and you're coming back into it, you don't have a lot of historical data of what kind of shape you're in, and what you think you can do, so you're kind of just trusting your training, trusting your coach, and yeah, trying to do the best you can. But I think that's definitely the hardest part, is, yeah, trusting yourself and trusting your fitness for sure.
I absolutely still don't. I'll go on a run, I'll feel a tweak, and I'll be like, "It's broken! It's broken
Yeah.
again!
I'm
I gotta
done.
go and sit out for another 10 years." So I want to get to Coach Torchia's question here. Coach Carl Torchia is a legendary coach over in New Jersey, over at Christian Brothers Academy. I think you can argue the greatest, one of the top 10 coaches in the history of the state. I'm
Yeah.
definitely putting that there. Top 5, we could. So Coach Torchia, how important do you think diet and sleep is to stay at your best? Can you give us an example of your food choices and sleep? And Darren Peters, who is also awesome, chiming in saying Sinclair is also an advocate for vitamins. So, Sinclair, do you want to, answer Coach Torchia's question there about sleep and diet and things like that?
Yeah, I mean it's huge. It's definitely important. I think it's possibly that that extra 1% that a lot of us are trying to get out of ourselves, especially at this level. And I mean, sleep is how you recover both mentally and physically. And then your diet is like definitely going to either hinder or improve performance. And so I definitely try and keep a well balanced diet. I don't like to like restrict things because some things are better for the mind and other things are better for the body. But
And some things,
Sometimes
yeah,
you just need a freaking Big
yep,
Mac, okay?
for
Sometimes you just
sure.
need a Big
Yeah.
Mac
and some
and it's
things just
okay.
taste really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think I'm always just like if I'm having a craving, then it's usually a sign that my body wants it. So if that's ice
Yeah.
cream or a burger, like I'm not going to restrict myself, but I do like to cook at home most nights of the week and
Smart.
just focus on, getting a lot of whole grains and a lot of protein and veggies and yeah, just a balanced diet. But I think I in high school started to take sleep really seriously like my junior year
Smart.
um and I think I saw like huge improvements, and so
Absolutely.
that's kind of always something that is like a non-negotiable for me. I try to get 9 hours of sleep a night, which may seem like a
Nice.
lot, but I think
No, that's
it's
good.
definitely one
Good.
of the things that definitely helps. I mean, like I said, I've had injuries, but I think if you're doing that, like that's definitely going to be something that's going to help prevent injuries for sure. But then also just you're recovering from your day, recovering from whatever workout you did, and so you're able to bounce back the next day or 2 days later and be able to hit it hard again. So yeah, sleep is definitely huge for me.
I think that's great because you started in high school to develop that discipline
Yes.
of, getting good sleep because
Mhm.
especially going into college and a major college, which every college is a party school if you want it to be, but major colleges especially are. You found that discipline, it seems like, in that
Yeah.
balance to, okay, I need to be asleep. I need to. And don't get me wrong,
Yeah,
there's a lot of really gifted, and I don't think anymore. I think it was more of like, mine and Dave's time, but I think most of them take it seriously now. But I knew some
Oh,
athletes that were the biggest party animals and would go out and rip a friggin' 405 the next day. Like, or they'd
yeah,
come right back from the meet and it would be like, all right, where's the party at? Like, that was just a normal thing. And I think that culture has changed
it
a
has.
lot. I'm debating whether or not it's a good thing at some levels because I think, having kids get older, not by choice. Obviously, Sinclair, you chose to do that. So that's a little different. But where kids are feeling forced to do it, like, I don't know. I don't
yeah.
like kids sacrificing if they don't want
No,
to
well,
when
I
they're
mean,
young. But it's a little, that's a debate neither here nor there. It's kind of, we can take that on a whole other podcast. But I just think that it's cool that you decided on your own to
well,
gain that discipline because it's
y-
massive.
I know. Well, I'd say, kind of like earlier what we're talking about, why, are these kids so much faster in high school? Even from coaching 10, 12 years ago to
Yeah.
now, these kids really do take their training and their diet and their sleep a lot more serious. When I was in high school, I didn't know anything. I just ran a practice. I would stay up late, I would eat bad. But these kids now, there really is a much more of a focus on doing that 1% of things that they can. And I think that's why we're seeing so many fast times at lower levels now, because everything that you guys have done is trickling down because of the internet. And also because if you're in high school now and you have a bad coach, it doesn't matter. You can go online and you can get training. So there's just so
Uh,
much more that is available for these kids. And they're so much more aware of what you guys are doing at that level. And it's definitely trickling down. At least that's what I say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Instagram has been obviously a huge part
yes.
of that because a lot of us pros put a lot
Yeah.
out there
Which is great.
in terms of what our day looks like, what we're eating, what our training looks like, and I think it's always depending on what level you're at, you want to take it with a grain of salt because a lot of us weren't doing this
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
10, 15 years ago, but at the same time I think it's also changed the way that people view training and recovering much
Yes.
earlier on, like you were
Like,
saying.
when back then, like, you went hard every day in high school. Now there's such
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
of an
Yeah.
emphasis from coaches about rest and relaxation. I'm curious how it's going to be in 10 years when this generation is where you are now. I'm curious if it's too much too early now, or if they really do have a great it's going to be a fascinating case study either way, just to kind of see,
Totally.
like, now that they are getting more rest, but they're running faster, will that hold up long term, or I don't
Is
know,
it
but
the evolution? Are we just
right.
evolving?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating talk to just to kind
Yeah.
of see where this all transpires in 10 years.
Yeah. So I have
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go ahead,
I've
Sinclair.
always thought about that.
So,
I was gonna say I've thought about that a lot. Like, are they just gonna be able to push their ceilings a
Yeah,
little bit
maybe.
higher because they've
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's crazy because and plus, where are shoes going to be in 10 years?
that's what I was going to ask. So I have to
Yeah.
get your opinion as a pro who was a pro pre Super Shoes and now has seen the advent of Super Shoes
Mhm.
coming into the sport, and kind of, if you don't have them, you're kind of getting left behind in a lot of ways. What is your opinion
Even at the
on
high
the
school level.
at the high school level, especially? I feel like it's even more at the
Yeah.
high school level than at the pro level,
Oh
because I think
yeah,
at the pro level,
everyone
you're
has.
running your times, they give you a second or so. It's, again, which is a lot at the pros, but I feel like it's massive at the younger levels. But what is your opinion? Number one,
Totally.
are you using Super Shoes? Number two, what's your
Mhm.
opinion on them if you are or aren't?
Yeah, definitely use super shoes. I think when they first came out, it was obviously the whole
Right.
craze,
Yeah.
and so we would use them for everything. And then I think we're slowly seeing. I mean, there was a huge surgence of like Achilles
Yep.
issues. A lot of athletes struggling with Haglins and getting surgery, and I think that can kind of be tied back to super shoes. And I specifically have had like I've never really had much muscular injuries, but last year I had a calf strain, and then earlier, or like a couple months ago, I had a bit of some knee
Yeah.
tendonitis, and
Yeah.
so I'm wondering if any of that, just I guess the way that the
Yeah.
shoes are, is I think you kind of have to use a little bit less leg strength, because they kind of not they do the running for you, but they definitely help you. And with the carbon plate too, it's just so stiff and so
Yeah.
rigid, and so yeah, I personally I like them because I think you can recover a lot
100%.
faster. If I like this my workout this morning, I had 7K on the track, and I wore vapor flies, and my legs are not really
Right.
gonna feel that tomorrow versus if I had done the OG like
Right.
streak LTs, which we were running in
Yeah. Which
college.
were great shoes back
But
then. The Streak LTs
they were
were the best
great,
shoes, and
yeah.
your feet felt great after
Yeah.
comparatively. Like, it's just crazy.
I just yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
No, it's so true. And I think, but I think also there's good things and bad things about
Yes.
anything,
Yes.
right? And so I think it's just about in moderation. And so I try to really um s- not run in a carbon plate for every single workout. So there's a lot of workouts where there's a shoe that Nike has, it's called
Yeah.
Pegasus Plus, which is basically a really, really lightweight trainer. And so I do a lot of threshold or hills and stuff like that in those. So yeah, just try to limit my time in a carbon plate as
right.
much as I can. I think there are certain workouts where it's definitely beneficial for, and I will use them. Um, but yeah, I think being in them all the time is definitely
Yeah, I
definitely
mean,
not
what
good.
I've noticed with some of the kids that I coach who are in high school is that they'll wear them on workout days, but any like endurance day or like distance day, they'll just wear
Yeah,
their trainers that they won't even mess with them. So that seems to kind
yeah,
of be working. Like, just use them on, if we do intervals or we're on the actual track. Like, kids don't really work out in spikes anymore. They just wear the super shoes in
wow,
place of the
yeah,
spikes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely changed training for sure. I feel like yeah, you can get to a whole new level when you have carbon plated Zoom foam
Yeah. It's
shoes now,
crazy.
and be able to recover off these workouts, and not have them beat up your legs too
Right.
much. I think if you balance it with, like, I try to balance it with a lot of foot ankle strength and calf stuff, and in the gym, or a lot of barefoot running. I do a lot of
Nice.
barefoot running too, and so I think if I'm balancing it with those things, I don't really have a problem using the shoes. But yeah, it's just, I mean, it's like kind of
Yeah.
anything, just in moderation. Definitely don't want to
A
overdo
big
them.
thing in high school now that is new is the sodium bicarbonate. It's,
Oh
like,
yeah.
and some kids take it, some don't, and apparently I've been reading, it's It's just baking soda, but apparently it like has all these crazy benefits. Is that something that that pros are doing on a level? Because it's completely legal. It's just baking soda, but like
Yeah.
who would have thought that the baking soda could have such positive? And then some kids take it and they can't because it really messes with their actual stomach. So it's just funny how like, some kids can and
Yeah.
can't, but the benefits from it seem to be pretty positive.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I know a lot of pros that use, if you're talking about the Martin
Yeah,
bicarb,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I know a lot of pros that use that. Um, I personally don't because I have a very sensitive stomach, and I think I would need to work up
right.
to using that. But yeah, it's huge in the pro world. I know. Yeah, like I said, so many people
High
that use
school
it.
too.
So it's definitely like if you're trying to get that extra percentage, I mean, I think it definitely
And yeah,
works
and
with terms of buffering
I
lactate.
was the
but
Yeah.
one that
apparently
wouldn't have used it
you only
because
take
I would
it
have
on
been
like
scared.
race days or workout days. Like you don't have to actually take it on days, when you're doing like your base training. But it's crazy that
Right.
yeah, it's like a form of like baking soda. Like because I had a couple of kids
Yeah.
on my team asked me about it. I'm like, I really don't know much about it, but I've been reading quite a bit, and I read that it was very very popular on the pro circuit. So I was just curious if it was something that you know about.
Hmm.
Thank you for your information.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he uses it all the time. Grant Fisher uses it all the time. Yeah, there's a lot of big
Yeah,
time pros that are using it. I think Keely Hodgkinson was like the first one to kind of test it out with
Gotcha.
Martin a few years ago before it became like access to the public. And so I know she uses it a lot. I'm sure lots of other yeah high level
it's
It's
like
athletes
funny.
creatine
too.
was when I was in high school. Like everyone
Yeah.
was taking creatine then.
Yeah.
It's gonna be funny.
Yeah.
I think like anything else,
There's
they're gonna
always something
we'll
new.
find
Always.
out after effects. We will find out after effects of what this is doing. Like people are gonna get this perk, and it's like, yeah, it's just baking soda, but it's like, yeah, how much baking soda are we supposed to ingest? Right? Like how much of
So
that
Yeah.
should be in our system, and is that okay?
well,
But you
Right.
know
you only
what?
take it on like certain days. Like you don't take it like most of the week.
But
It's
how
just
much
on the
baking
workout.
soda have you
I have
taken in your
listen.
life?
I had just
You know
heard
what I
about
mean?
it.
It's like, and now all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're gonna be like, hey, 3 times a week. You know, it's like
Yeah.
that's a big change for your body
I had
chemistry.
just
So
heard about it, and then I
yeah.
was mad at myself as a coach. Like, why didn't I not know
It's tough to
about
keep
this?
up with
I
the
was like, damn. I was
trends.
like, there's so many things
Yeah.
that I try to follow and stuff.
I mean, there really are.
It's so much. And in with the super shoes, the more I'm hearing about them, I think they're great, but I'm gonna start calling them like the icy hot of shoes. They just like don't let you feel like your recovery's better, but like Sinclair said, you seems like it's having some issues with like the muscle stuff, right? And these types of things. And maybe you're not feeling exactly what's going on in your legs. And I think we're seeing, like you said, people dialing back. People were using it for their long runs, for their sprints workouts. And I think we're seeing that dial back. And it's similar to what spikes are, right? You weren't going to use your spikes or even
Yeah.
like your indoor waffle racers everywhere you go because they're light and aggressive. You're just using them for specialized moments. And I think that's where we're going to get, the carbon fiber, the super
They're gonna
shoes.
figure
They're
it out.
gonna yeah. Oh, yeah. And they're going to be great. And
Yeah.
they've changed the sport. And I think they've changed it for the
Oh yeah.
better. But speaking of changes, Sinclair, you've undergone some changes yourself in terms of your training and who you're training with or not training with. So you were a member of the Union Athletic Club, which was the Oregon Project, right? That was the Nike Oregon Project before that, and then it became Union. You were a member there, found success there, but you've decided, when they were moving from Oregon to Colorado, to stay and be trained by your fiance, who is a monster, who we are putting in a formal request through you to get him on the show as well, Craig Nowak. So, what went into that decision?
Yeah, there was kind of a lot going on last year in terms of my injury, in terms of Nike deciding to move Union Athletics Club to
Yeah,
Boulder, to then it no longer being a Nike team.
a
So
lot.
there was a lot of moving parts, and I think naturally in an Olympic year there is a lot of changes. And so I think I found success pretty early on with Pete. And things were going pretty well. And then I just kind of had a series of injuries that were taking me out for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I am always going to be the biggest advocate for
As you
Good.
myself.
should.
And I tried as much as I could while I was there to make some changes. And I think I saw things that were probably getting me injured. And I definitely was, trying to reason with him and um, and make some changes to my training. And he was receptive for the most part. But I think, when someone believes in their philosophy and believes in what they're doing, they're not going to make a
Sure.
180
Yeah,
change.
yeah.
And I would never ask someone, a coach, to do that. And so I think it just got to a point where I saw myself needing something very different. And I needed a change, and I didn't, mainly because I didn't want to get stuck in this injury
Right.
cycle again and again. And it's really hard to build momentum and consistency when you're doing that. And my fiance also a runner, so, and luckily we've been together since 2017, and so he's seen me go through my
Right.
Yeah,
college
yeah.
coach, go through Jerry Schumacher at Bowerman, seen me go through Pete Julian too. And so and also just seen me as an athlete and seen what I respond to, what I don't. And he is also a very much student of the sport. I think he knows a lot about, training, and he's always trying to dive into what, like, different methodologies of training and what other people have done, and then also using my own historical data too. And so it kind of was just a natural transition of, I'm at a point in my life where loved being on a team with a lot of these women that have now been really close friends
Yeah.
of mine, but I'm kind of ready to make this change and be off on my own and really do exactly what is best for me each and every day. Um and just be in a highly individualized program. I think I was ready for that step. And unfortunately just got a little bit burnt out of the group structure when, you have to kind of make compromises, and there are certain things where you're not going to get probably the best training for you on that day, because this coach has 10 other athletes that
Yeah,
he's trying
yeah.
to fit into the puzzle, and that's just the nature of being on a team. And so yeah, and when, Nike said that or Nike or sorry, when Nike said that Union was going to move to Boulder, I think that made the
Sure.
decision a lot easier, because change obviously is
No.
never easy, and I think it's was very scary and very risky for me to just go completely on my own and have my boyfriend at the time, coach me. And I was definitely scared to tell Nike that, and kind of scared to make that leap. But I really couldn't be happier. And I think there's there's a feeling of that I have taken the driver's seat back in my career, and I love that. And I love being able to make decisions about
Sure.
training. And he's very much coaching me and writing me workouts, but I have a lot of say in what I do, and there's a lot more collaboration. And um, we love, also side note, we also love Portland and the community and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
group of friends we've built here. And so we didn't want to move to
Yeah.
Boulder and start, I guess, over.
Makes sense.
So
Portland has
yeah,
a
it was
great
just
running
kind of a
culture.
natural
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
transition.
I said
What'd you say?
Portland has a great running culture.
it really
And
does.
Yes.
you are one of many. A Grant Fisher left. Like, you have to do when you're at that level, find a coach that works for you, or not just a coach, but an actual whole program and teammates. So like
Yeah.
it's not that uncommon to change coaches. We see it often. So I'm,
Yeah.
I'm just glad that you're in a place now where you feel comfortable, and that's just things. That's one less thing you have to worry about mentally going on in your mind. That you
A-
Yeah.
feel comfortable and that you
Yeah.
are completely ready and focused and happy.
Yeah. Thank you. I
And
appreciate that.
Pete Julian, like, he's a name that's known in the sport. He's a great coach,
Yeah.
but that comes with the running. That comes with,
Yeah.
just like the meshing of coaches. Sometimes it doesn't have it. And I do have to say, Craig is a very brave man. I could not imagine telling my wife what to do in any capacity in our relationship. So he is a very brave man, because it would be like, honey, it's the greatest workout ever. And you'd be like, I died on the last one. What are you talking about? Like, no, but no,
Yeah.
that's really cool. Like
That's
Dave
awesome.
said, that you have found yourself, and obviously, Craig's a great runner in his own right, and so it's two really good runners. And we made the joke that Josette and Robbie, we had them on the show. That's like the fastest miler couple
Mhm.
in the
Fastest married
world.
milers.
Fastest married milers. But when you and
Yeah.
Craig get married, you guys are going to have there's going to be some competition there with Robbie and Josette, you and Craig. So I mean,
Yeah, I'm like, I think they still have us beat, but I appreciate
We should
that.
do that should be like a big event. All like the married distance runners in America should
Yeah,
do like the married
do a
mile. Yeah,
relay.
like
Yeah, married
married mile relay, a 2
Yeah.
by mile.
2 by
Like
mile.
just a 2 by mile and just do a married mile. I feel like that would be awesome. Like that would be so much fun.
That would be fun. There are a lot of running
Sure.
couples,
Oh yeah.
like if you really think about
Yeah.
it. So, yeah, that
And
would
Maybe
be
we
and
should
fun.
set that up. We'll do
if you
that
made
with
that
trials of
with
miles.
listen, if you made that with a large enough person, you'd have just people. You'd have like Jakob marrying Faith. Like you would just have people just marrying each other.
Oh, yeah.
That we
Right.
got to do that. We got
Speaking
to
of
get with
which,
Dave.
I
We
just
got
have
to get. Oh, God, different.
one quick question, kind of off the cuff. Do you think we will see the first sub 4 minute woman on
Mhm.
Thursday?
I mean, I personally
Me
hope
too.
so.
It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be very exciting. I think also if anyone could do it, it's Faith Kipyegon,
She's unreal.
obviously. Um, so yeah, will it happen? I mean,
There's
I
so many
don't know
factors.
for
It's
sure,
gonna be fast.
but I think
Yeah.
yeah, I think whatever. I think she's definitely gonna run really fast. I think it's been kind of cool being here at
Yeah,
in
it's a
Portland
huge screen.
because the innovation team that's been working on this whole
Yeah.
project, which a lot of them were working on breaking two with
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kipchoge, and so they've been out at the track almost every single day trying to figure out the perfect formation for pacing and the wave lights, and so it's been really cool to kind of see the
Yeah.
behind the scenes of it all. And yeah, I mean, I definitely hope so. I think that would be not only a huge step forward for women in sports, for track and field for Nike, and but yeah, it would just be also really
I
cool
mean,
to see. But it is kind of
it's
crazy that the
unbelievable.
world record really hasn't been lowered like more than I think there was some stat, the world record hasn't been lowered for more than 7 seconds
Yeah.
in like
Yeah.
30
Wow.
years,
Listen,
and she's trying to do that
I mean,
in one night.
it's
So it's pretty
it's
incredible, like
unbelievable.
if she does it. And i
407 is
mean
unbelievable.
i mean her just
407 is,
yeah, her just like attempting it in general is
you
just
know,
incredible too. I
and
mean,
like obviously I've never met her, but like when you see her dominate and win, like it definitely feels like there's such a respect for her from the other athletes, and she seems like genuinely
yes.
like just a nice human being, like. But I mean, I don't know her, but
Yep.
like you see, like when she runs fast, like everyone's cheering for her, but when she runs fast, you also see 15 other national or meet records
Mhm.
just in that same race. So like she's helping everybody.
Totally. Yeah. And I think, what do they say? A rising tide, raises all boats. And so I think she is just pushed forward the women's 1500. I mean, the Paris final last year was just
Insane.
crazy. You had to run 3:52 to medal. And yeah, it's just been cool to kind of be a little small part of that era of 1500
Do
runners.
you
So yeah, it'd be really exciting to watch on
Yeah,
Thursday night.
do you get excited when you see like Faith in like something that you may be like racing against her and it's like, all right, my PR is 356. Let's lower that. Like, Fate's in this race. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I can run faster now. Like, is it exciting when you get with these women that have faster PRs and it's like, okay, this is my chance instead of because I think like you fall into a lull in track where it's like, I just want to win all the time. Like, I'm winning. And obviously, it's always the goal.
Mhm.
Even if Faith is on the line, it's like, I'm beating Faith Kipyegon today. Like, that's got to be the mindset, right? But it's like, but at the same time, do you get to a point in your career where you're looking at this going, all right, I have these fast women in my race too. Well, let's, go after it. And if I go after it, I'm going to run fast. I'm going to get a PR and hopefully win this race.
Yeah, yeah, I think that was definitely my mindset, and especially in
Yeah.
2022 in the final, or just that year in general. I think when I got into pre-classic, I had a PR of
Wow.
403, and I'm racing. I think Faith and Gudolf Sige
Mhm.
were both in that race, and so I knew just kind of
very
trying to
close.
hang on as much. I mean, I didn't really hang on, but I ran 3:58 that day, so yeah, that's definitely a lot of the mindset. I think now my mindset shifted a little bit more. I think like, um, obviously I want to run fast, but like you said, like every athlete loves to
Outmatch, yeah.
win, and I love to win, and so I think now my mindset going into those races, instead of kind of being like a little timid and a little scared of like, oh, I hope I can, do this. It's more of like, I want to see where I stack up against them. So, but yeah, of course. I mean, whenever Faith's in the race, we know it's going to be a barn burner, and she's going to bring out the best in us. So I'm always very
I was
appreciative of
actually
that.
gonna ask you because a lot of times on this show I talk about how I feel like the art of racing is kind of gone. Like everybody's just worrying about times,
Mhm.
and so to hear you say that. So would you rather be in a race where you run a crazy fast PR or a tactical race where it just comes down and you end up like winning it because of how well that you've done your tactics? I feel like we're at a point now where maybe not you, but so many people are satisfied. Yeah, I got 10th place, but I ran like a 3-second PR. It's become all about times, and I feel like sponsors are signing people based on time, so that's why the emphasis of that has gone that way. Whereas I miss that like view at that Olympic or world champion style race where it's just let's just see like who's got the most chutzpah now at the end of the race. So I was just curious, like what kind of race do you like better?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always gonna love a race where I'm gonna win it. I think I would prefer that any day. But yeah, I think it really shows. I think because you see these really really fast times. Like, I'm
Oh
talking
yeah,
about the
Yeah,
collegiate
yeah.
season. Like, for example, is like a lot of these athletes will run really fast kind of time trials, in the season, and you're like, whoa, this is crazy, but then it comes to NCAA's and they don't make the
yeah.
Yeah.
final, or they're
They
not
don't
even
have any
top
tactics.
three, and because it's about racing, and I think I personally think that that's when I'm always having the most fun, is when I'm in a race like that. And so I always would prefer that. I think, last year it's kind of funny you say that, of like, getting 10th and getting a PR is like, I got 4th last year at the Olympic trials, and I ran a huge PR. And I think a lot of people were like, that's crazy. Like, you ran a PR, like that's awesome. But I was honestly like, I would have rather
Right,
run
right.
4:10 and
Yeah.
made the team than run 3:56 and not make the team. So, yeah, I mean, it's always cool to say that you're, X, Y, and Z runner,
Right.
like whatever
Oh,
your
in
PR is. But I think no one can ever take away, like, a win from me, or a
Yep.
national title,
hmm
or if it's a medal. So, I'm always, we, like, our friend group always has this big debate, like, would you rather have a
right.
world record, or would you rather have
Yeah.
an Olympic gold
Gold
medal?
medal.
And I
Yeah.
always take the
Ask
Olympic
Well,
gold
Wilson
medal.
Kipketer that
Yeah.
question. Ask Wilson Kipketer, who
yeah,
is
the 800.
before David Rudisha was the cream of the crop in the 800, but I think he has one world title, could
Yeah.
never get it done in the Olympics,
And
and
1 yeah.
never really got
Yep.
it done. And I think if you asked Wilson, I think he would honestly say, like, I would give back. I'd go run a 144 and win an 800, like
Wanya asked,
gold medal, like
or
Yeah.
that
even Jakob.
100%.
I'm sure Jakob would love to have one
Yeah.
of those 1500, world titles over,
Right.
running 3:27 20 times, in a row. But, so
Right.
like yeah, it's just crazy because definitely at the high school level, huge emphasis on time because colleges are looking at
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
especially,
Yeah.
with
Totally. That makes
especially with
sense.
like all
Yeah.
these roster cuts now at the college level. Like
Yeah.
it's like panic time
100%.
here in high school.
So before we let you jump out of here, because I know you only have like a little bit of more time to give us, and we appreciate
Oh,
all the time you've
thank
given
you.
us. It's fantastic. I just want to give
Mm.
kudos and credit to American middle distance and up, because I feel like something has clicked with all of you where, you
Mhm.
talk about wanting to get in these races and win and medal. And that was never the mindset, even like we had great middle distance runners. Like, I grew up idolizing Kadivas Robinson and Nick Simmons and Dwayne Solomon. But I feel like the mentality of the Americans was, let's get into the finals and then see what happens. Where I feel like the mindset's
Mhm.
completely shifted. It's
Yeah.
not let's get into the finals, it's when we get into the finals. And I feel like that's a shift American wide, right? Is no more we need to try to get into the finals. It's expected. We're going to be in that finals. We're going to mix it up. We're going to be in for the medals. And I give you all a ton of credit for all of you guys going after it that way. And, Sinclaire, you're a big part of that
Oh yeah.
because you have been a big wave in this shift. You've been a part of that heyday of having middle distance runners in America believe that they can get into these finals consistently and then go and medal. So you're
Mhm.
fantastic. And I'm going to leave you and ask you this last question before we go. And it's a question that I ask most of people on here, unless I forget, which I do often. But and it's prevalent to you because one of the big things in this show is, we're talking to you, and there's no reason why yourself and Craig shouldn't be millionaires. You're pro athletes. You're a American champion. You're one of the more successful athletes around. There's no reason why our track and field pros aren't living incredibly comfortably. So, what would you change in this sport if you had a wand, or that you could poof, something changes, and the sport changes to where casual fans start to come in more, and we start to get more money
Mhm.
coming in, and someone like you who should be a millionaire would be a millionaire. What would you change in order to kind of put us in that direction to make that happen?
Oh, that's a really
We
good
ask so many people,
question.
and we always get the like, you can have a
Yeah,
second to pause.
I think yeah, yeah, it's difficult because I think especially specifically in America because and over in Europe like track and
Yeah,
field's
yeah,
big time and you'll have sold out stadiums. But in America, I think sometimes, you know, we have so many other big time sports. We have the
yep.
NFL, the NBA, the MLB, and so and I think also people love having a team
Thing.
to root
Yep.
for, and I feel like that is very hard with track and field because it's very individualized. And so then I'm like trying to look at other individual sports or sporting events that people like to go to. And I know Americans love to gamble. So I'm like thinking maybe we can do something like, you know, live
Yeah,
betting like at a horse, like they
that's
do
what
for
Alex
horse
said.
track, horse
Alex said
races.
that.
I've been
Yeah,
on that forever.
And
like win
yeah,
play
and
show.
I think, you know, you see like the right, like you see the
Yeah,
Kentucky
yeah.
Derby and there's thousands of people. I mean, I've even gone to horse races with my in-laws in Texas and there's been so many people there
Yep.
really into it, like really, and obviously that brings more money into the sport too. I think, you know, that could be a really fun element we could bring to track and field. I think, you know, there's the argument of like, well, then people might throw the race or this
It's
or
still
that.
bringing
And it's
fans
like,
watching
yeah,
though,
I
but
guess there's some element of that in it. And I think that might be just kind of a risk you have to take. But yeah, I think that could get people at least a lot more
Definitely.
involved in it and have feel like they have some stake in whatever race is happening and have some, you know, loyalty to one runner or one jumper or one thrower because they have money
yeah,
on it.
and
So I think that would be my
That's
one
huge, and
thing.
the thing is, like, they don't have to know Sinclair Johnson going into the race, right? But they could see what
Right.
she's
No,
run, and
not
then
at
they could
all.
put her in, like, the Win Placer show and bet on you, and then if you win the money, you best believe they're gonna know who Sinclair Johnson is, and they're
yep.
gonna start following her, and
So
Yeah,
so
yeah,
exactly.
no, I've been on that for
yeah. Well, I
ages
mean,
now,
the
and
it's
I
funny.
think that's
The
gonna be
the
yeah, that would be
first
great.
person who mentioned betting to us was Sarah Slattery.
Yep, Sarah Slattery was the first
She
one.
she,
Yeah,
she said put it
yep,
on
Okay.
like
Yeah.
DraftKings or like FanDuel
yep,
or
yep,
something like that. But
Yeah. Yeah. Even that
yeah,
is
yeah.
a good
I have
start.
one
Yeah.
more question because you know, the big thing this whole year was Grand Slam track. Did that seem
Yeah.
as good for the athletes as the athletes made it perceive? You as an athlete there, and do you think we will see a season 2? Because I really thought it was starting to really catch on. And is that something that you would love to be invited to if it does continue
Well,
on?
did you race? I think you raced that one, right?
Yes. No.
No?
No, so I
Okay,
got
okay.
invited to, I was
Right.
supposed to do Miami. I got invited to Miami, but then had to pull out with some
Gotcha.
tendinitis in my knee. But yeah, so I never actually attended a Grand Slam. I have like one of my good friends here,
Yes.
Emily
Yes,
Infeld, was at the
yes,
Jamaica
yes.
Grand Slam. And so from an athlete side, it sounded like
That's
they
what I heard.
took really good care of them, made sure that there was a lot of physios and trainers on staff. I mean, put them in nice hotels. It seemed like they were
And
very
they
well
paid him
taken
well.
care of. And then not to mention, yeah, and then not to mention the insane prize purse that also is kind of unlike any other event I've ever been to. I mean, you don't even get that much money for
Yeah.
winning the Olympic
Yeah.
Games. So, um, yeah, I think from an athlete perspective, they were really well taken care of. I think from a business side, I've heard that they just were
Money. Yeah.
spending a lot of money. And I don't know if that
Sustainable.
was because of the
Yeah,
three
yeah.
day meet or because of the
Yeah.
prize purse or whatever it was, but it just it wasn't sustainable. But I'm hoping that,
Yeah.
hopefully they've learned a lot through these 3 slams.
I
And
think it was kept on.
I also, yeah, for
It was
sure. I
awesome.
think Philly was obviously seemed
Yeah.
really well
I mean,
attended.
I'm over here in
Yeah, and
Jersey, and like there was at the high school meets, there was hype about it. Like I had a lot of kids on my team
yeah,
that went with their families. It was cool.
Yep.
yeah. I think if you put it in certain cities that will come and show out for track and field, like Philly, I think it's great. But yeah,
Yeah, I
so
do
I
too.
hope it comes back for a second season, obviously. And I like what they're doing. I think going back to racing
Yeah.
versus times, their huge emphasis
Yes.
on just racing is way
It
more
is.
exciting. I think a lot of the
We
distance
do have to
races
get the
were
5K
fun
and
to
3K
watch.
runners though to race a little bit harder, because when you're running high school elite
Yeah.
times, like that
Yeah,
pulls away the casual. Us three, that's like distance porn to us, right? It's like,
yeah,
who's gonna win? If you don't know what's
yes,
going on, and then you look and you're turned to like your friend that likes track, it's like, is that fast? No, but they raced well. They're like, then what the hell are we watching? We want to like. So I feel like there needs to be
yeah,
some incentive
I
for them to
agree.
at least run fast.
They also have to figure out
Yes,
like
yeah,
you can't have one distance race, or if you have one, it still has to be 100K, because you're gonna have
Yeah, there's
people
got
like,
to be something there.
why would I go and make half of what everyone else can? So like
Yeah,
there's
they
some
got to
things,
figure that.
once they went
yeah,
from 1 to 2 days. I hope so, because I love the fact that the athletes put it on the line and were willing to run back to back days. It
Yeah,
reminded me
it was
of
nice.
yeah,
like a high school dual meet. Like it was
It
just
was there was a
fun,
cool
yeah,
sense of it.
It
Yes.
was cool. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, my personal favorite was the
of course,
15-8 group, because I
100%.
think that group it's just so special, because you can have 800 more specific runners, you can have more
Yeah.
1500 specific runners, and it's pretty
Yeah.
You mean on the
close
men's
when
side?
you
Oh,
like
On the men's
play it
side, the
out.
800
So
guys definitely got the better of the if
I
the
know.
15 guys,
I
if
know, yeah, that was
yeah, if
really
Yara,
exciting.
Josh, and Cole really weren't showing out in that 15, and they let Arup or Wanyani like get close and get top
Yeah.
points, none of those three had
Yeah,
a
I
shot of
loved it
winning in
though,
the
because
800.
it was
Like
all about
it was
racing
interesting there.
strategy.
Yeah, it was
But
very interesting.
speaking of which, I have one shout out that happened about 10 miles from my house today. I think Ajay Wilson's back. She ran a
Yeah, 158.
158 today,
Yes.
right here at Monmouth
Monmouth.
University. So
nice.
let's
Yes.
go, Ajay.
Yes.
Love
Go,
that.
Ajay.
Always, I'm
Her
a
way,
big fan of her, so
she's
love to hear
went to
that.
high school about 10 minutes from here.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh,
yes.
nice.
So
Yeah, that's another event. The women's
Woo.
800 is just
Yeah.
crazy,
loaded.
Well, I mean,
crazy.
especially like our things, like what is she gonna do? Like no one knows. She's been running some 15s or a 5. Like it's gonna be interesting come U.S.
Yeah,
Nationals to see where
I,
everyone goes and what
yeah.
they actually run.
I think she's
Supposed to
racing the
run
800 at Purdy,
at
so
a pretty.
that'll be good to see, because I think it's Keely's in it too, and yeah, so it'll be a
It's going to be
good
exciting.
race.
So Sinclair, thank you so much for coming
Mhm.
on. This
Thank you.
was fantastic.
Oh, of course.
So once again, she is Sinclair Johnson. She is the 2022 U.S. Women's 1500-meter champion, 3-time member of the world's team, and I'm predicting 4-time coming up very soon. I feel like she is geared after opening up her season with the 401 and looking good doing it over there in Portland. Ran well. When are we going to see you race again? What's the next meet?
Next will be Prefontaine Classic, so next Saturday,
Let's
1500.
go.
Always a great meet.
This is where the
Yep.
gambling needs to come in, because I would
Mhm.
put my money on Sinclair to
Yep.
win. I would put her on for the win there. So no pressure. But anyway, we appreciate her coming on. If you
Thank
want to go find her over on Instagram at Sinclair Johnson, not very hard. Just go spell her name out. If you don't know how to spell her name, Google it. It's typical Sinclair spelling. So go spell that. And you'll find us again. We're back on our weekly schedule. So we'll be back next week with another fun show. We appreciate everyone that watched wherever you're watching from, whether it's our traditionals with X, Facebook, YouTube, or if you tuned in on Kick or Twitch. Thanks for going on there. We appreciate that. Make sure you like, share, follow, do all that good stuff. And if you're listening to this later via podcast form, give us 5 stars, leave us a comment. Everyone that commented, we appreciate that. Thank you so very much. And we'll be back